Hi guys, so last week I talked about consistency in movement. I talked about how you could use this to play different types of scales and arpeggios, and I talked about how this can accelerate how you learn scales and arpeggios as well. So if all of that's new to you, then check out last week's video. But what I thought I'd do this week is give you some real concrete examples of this as well. So I've picked one particular pattern that I talked about last week, which was alternating two notes and one. And then this particular pattern lends itself really well to different types of seventh arpeggio. So what I've done is I've broken down the different types of seventh arpeggio, going all of the different inversions as well. And then I applied this 1-2, 1-2 kind of alternating finger pattern to them, going all the way up the neck. So this has turned into quite a lot of content, a lot of material. And so what I've done is I've created a PDF to go with this as well. So the PDF has all of these patterns broken down up and down the neck. So download that. There's nothing to sign up for or anything like that. You just click on the link and you'll get hold of the PDF. It's all free. So get hold of that because that's what I'm going to be referring to. So if you look at that PDF, you can see it's split into 5 sections, and each of these sections are different types of seventh arpeggio. So you can see the first section is all the major seventh arpeggios. The second section is dominant 7, then minor 7th, minor 7 flat 5, and diminished 7th. And there's quite a lot of consistency between the different sections as well. So if you have a look at each one, if we pick on one in particular, you can see there's kind of 3 rows of arpeggios laid out. And the first 2 are me following this pattern strictly. So you can see the first one, the first set of 4 shapes, all uses this 2-1 pattern, but starting on the 5th string. Finishing with 2 notes on the top E string, yeah? And the second row is the same 2-1 pattern, but starting on the 6th string, finishing on the B string. Now, what you'll find as you dig into these arpeggios is that some of them are much easier to play than others. And so what I've done is I've cherry-picked my particular favourite of those 2, and that's what I've put in the preferred line. And all I've done then is just sort of extended it across the neck. So if you look at the minor 7th, they have the minor 7th, and then you can see on the 6th string I've added 2 extra notes in there as well. And then the one slightly unusual one is the diminished 7th pattern, and if you know anything about the diminished 7th, you know that it's a symmetric arpeggio. So every position looks the same as every other position as well. Every note is a root note, which is why there's only 2 patterns on there. So it's worth just investigating diminished 7th arpeggios if this is all new to you. But that's why the system's laid out the way it is. So there's a lot of content in the PDF, like I say, and the way I'd recommend you approaching learning these is not really to start from the top of the PDF and work your way through. I've laid it out as a reference work, just something that you can keep dipping into. But if this is completely new to you, what I recommend you doing is starting with the minor 7th arpeggios first, because I find these some of the most flexible and adaptable arpeggios you can use. So for example, if we play in E minor 7th, for example, we take that first arpeggio, you can hear how it fits over the minor 7th chord, obviously. And the other thing about this is you should be able to pretty quickly work out how it fits over the pentatonic. Which is another good reason for starting with these. They fit quite nicely, they fit quite snugly over the pentatonic. So if you know how to use a pentatonic scale, you should be able to figure out how to use these minor 7th arpeggios. Minor seventh chords, well there's three minor seventh chords in a major scale, so that straight away if you learn the minor seventh arpeggio you can fit over 3 of the chords. There's also 2 major seventh chords in a major scale, and you'll find these minor seventh arpeggios fit over those as well. So for example, if I'm playing E major seventh like this, what you do is you look for the note which is the third, a major third above the root, as that is E, a major third above that is E, F sharp, G sharp, yeah? And if you play the minor seventh arpeggio based on that G sharp, hear how that fits? So that's a great way of sort of using minor seventh shapes over major seventh chords. And as there are 2 major seventh chords in a major scale, then you've got 5 chords that you can use minor seventh arpeggios over. And that's why I like to start with these, they're so flexible. And then once you've got the hang, you've got somewhere with the minor seventh, the next arpeggio I'd pick on is a dominant seventh, which is a really important sound. That chord 5 is a really important sound to get under your fingers. So once you've got that, you've got 6 out of the 7, and actually when you're playing a dominant seventh, that kind of fits over the minor seventh flat 5 as well. So if you can get those 2 arpeggios, those 2 sounds under your fingers, then you're a long way in being able to, you know, cover a large amount of territory. And then once you've got those 2 arpeggios working, then you can just dip into the others as and when you see fit, and as and when you come across new sounds that you want to experiment with as well. So maybe the best thing to do from here is to just pick a few really simple patterns. Just pick one of those shapes, a few simple patterns, and we'll work through them. Okay, so let's just pick on one shape. If we pick on that first position of the minor seventh arpeggio, up on the 7th fret, so we're going to play E minor 7th. Okay. And all I do to start with really is just to get used to the feel under my hand. Either ascending or descending, yeah? So that's the first thing I do, just to get used to moving around this shape. And then the other shape I like to do is what I call a zigzag pattern, which is just yeah, hopefully you can see what I'm doing there. And then once I've got that working, I'll start with just ascending and descending in groups of 3, just triplets. And then, not too surprisingly, I'll ascend and descend in groups of 4. So don't underestimate the amount of content that's in the video this week. You can be working on these for months and years. I'm still finding new things around these shapes myself. They can be really powerful though. You find over time, as you get used to them, you can really fly over them. And I know a few guitarists who do some amazing things with these kinds of shapes. So it's well worth getting used to this kind of a pattern. But anyway, hopefully that was useful for you, and we'll chat next time. Goodbye.